26 years ago today, I was graduating my very first Army training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. It was a basic camp for ROTC cadets, and my parents were there. My dad was a Vietnam veteran who had never really talked about his experiences in the Marine Corps back in the 60s, and it was a really special moment for all of us. I remember my dad standing with me on the parade field, the biggest shit-eating grin on his face. He had bought a Vietnam veteran and proud of it hat, which he had never worn anything like that before, because he came from a generation of veterans who were not thanked for their service. And little did we know that a couple years later, 9/11 would happen, and a few years later, I would be in Iraq, and then later on in Afghanistan. But that's not the point of this story. The point is that 3 days after that parade field, Dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He'd been a lifelong smoker. And 6 weeks later, Dad was gone. And he had been my best friend, and it was hard, right? Because I'm 19 years old and just lost my dad pretty suddenly. But in the interim, in those several weeks that we had together, we really had about 1 good month before he went into palliative care and was kind of like out of it because of the meds that he was on. In those few weeks, Dad gave this interview to our local paper where the journalist, and he had grown up on the same side of town. They both had smoked Marlboros all their lives. They graduated from the same high school. They had dated the same girl. They were both in the Marine Corps at the same time. And so it was kind of this cool story, but my dad's quoted in that story as saying, "Life is this very minute. It's right now." And this was something that stuck with me for a long time that I knew was true, but I never really was able to live out. My mom, likewise, in her grief over the next decade or so, tried to come to terms with that. And she had always said life is today, but she struggled to live it out. And then she kind of found her way to do that through Al-Anon in the 2010s, which really helped her. And now she is living a life where she lives today. And so why do I tell you these two stories? Because my dad at age 55 discovered with a couple weeks left that he needed to live right now. My mom discovered when she was 70 how to actually do that. Here I am at age 45 and realizing and finally starting to actually live out that life is today, not just today, but right now, and not just right now, but like in this heartbeat. Dad, like I said, had a couple weeks to sort of figure that out and live it. My mom has had a couple decades to do so, and I've got a couple billion heartbeats left in this life because I intend to live for at least 75 more years until I'm 120. And in that time, I've got a couple billion decisions to make. It sounds a little overwhelming, but when you boil it down, it's actually very simple. I get to choose in every single moment, what is it that I want to interpret my life as meaning and becoming. I've got that choice. I've moved beyond the phase of my life where the world was happening to me and that I was a victim of circumstances and that everything happens for a reason. I've come to the place now where I believe that I'm the reason that everything happens. And that means I have radical responsibility for the things that happen in my life. And I get to choose, even when bad things happen, I get to choose how I respond to them and how I apply them in the heartbeats that come after it. This is a very simple and straightforward message, but that's because life is actually very simple and straightforward. We get to choose what we do, who we become, who we are, and we get to add the meaning to it. Today, I want to encourage you, wherever you're at, to love yourself, to grant yourself radical forgiveness for the choices that you've made, and then give yourself radical openness to live out the remainder of your moments with intentionality and authenticity and with courage, and again, by owning it. I think that's where the name of my channel and my coaching efforts comes from, is from a place of striving to own this life myself and to hopefully encourage other people to do the same. Wherever you are, whatever you've got going on today, I encourage you to own it, to love yourself, and to keep being you. Whatever you've got going on, you've got this, and I've got your back.